Dutch teenage language consists of the so-called Merks and straattaal. Merks is a youth language spoken by native Dutch teenagers. The purpose of this so-called language is imitating and mocking Moroccan and Turkish young people who don't have a good command of the Dutch language. Merks is obviously not an expression of admiration for the Turkish and Moroccan people, so these youngsters interpret it as a lack of respect, which is understandable. The name Merks was made up by Jacomine Nortier, who is an associate professor of social linguistics at the University of Utrecht and who also studied slang. Merks is a combination of the Dutch words Marokkaans and Turks, which means Moroccan and Turkish. Straattaal is a language mix which is made up by young people from different cultural and social backgrounds. The word straattaal is invented in 1997 by René Appel, who was a professor of second language acquisition. Dutch straattaal contains words from both the American and British English language, as well as the Surinamese, Turkish and Moroccan Arabic language. Not all straattaal speakers belong to the same group or subculture, so straattaal cannot be attributed to a specific or defined group of young people. Everyone uses different words, which means that there is no such thing as the straattaal. What they do have in common is that straattaal words and expressions are mainly related to topics such as sex, relationships between boys and girls, money, violence, and social contacts. Another feature is the large number of personal insults and curses. In the late 90s, this language of young foreign people attracted a lot of negative attention in the Dutch media. It was believed that these young people were not good enough in the Dutch language and people called their straattaal Smurfs language. There are a few differences between Merks and straattaal. The first and biggest difference is that Merks is mainly spoken by Dutch young people who have limited contact with their so-called foreign peers, while straattaal on the other hand is spoken by a variety of young people from different ethnic groups that intensively interact.
To look at how language and identity works, we must first take a better look at how the identity of adolescents develops. According to the book Identiteitsontwikkeling en leerlingenbegeleiding van der Wal, every stage in life teaches us something different. For example, during the first stage, babies learn to trust or distrust. At the second stage, toddlers either attain more independency or they are more ashamed and insecure about their actions. The fifth stage is the stage about adolescence. During this stage, they want to find an identity. They're trying to find who they are and this makes them so insecure. We call this an identity crisis. Many people know that adolescents fight a lot with their parents and they have a very short temper. This is mainly because their prefrontal cortex isn't developed enough. They create the so-called negative identity. In this way, they're trying to be good at being bad. Adolescents choose for a more attainable identity. They leave out all the good things and decide just to be bad. This happens mostly when adolescents feel that they can't comply with their parents' expectations or their own expectations. Furthermore, there are 4 different ways of finding an identity and one of them contributes to teenage language. According to the book, it's the part of herkenning and erkenning. Identity can develop only when it has an interaction with other people. So adolescents need to have a relation to other identities. This is the reason why adolescents do a lot of things to be accepted by others, for example, trying out different looks, showing a different demeanor, speaking differently, etc. Groups often have strict rules for acceptance. These rules often have to be confirmed by the group members by showing loyalty. Being a member of a group gives a feeling of identity. You are someone and others recognize this. This is the main reason why adolescents use their own language during this stage. They're in search of an identity and their surroundings give them an identity, and the only way of acceptance and recognition is to conform to their rules. So the main reason why teenagers use a different language is because they can't find an identity. It doesn't have to be because they feel like they can't comply to expectations. The identity crisis is what mostly lead them to form a group. When they can't find an identity, they can use some Arabic or Surinamese words, and there you have it, or use words that other group member uses. And there you are, a member of a group, your identity.
Language is a part of someone's social identity. Every person belongs to a group, and every group has its own variety of language. By some people, the different types of their speech is unaware. In each group, their language is more and exaggerated used, so communication is easier and it brings the group closer. Straattaal can be an addition to the social identity of adolescents because they get together and find a group where they all speak the same way. It gives them a multicultural identity, different languages will be spoken, and they all know what they are saying. Most of the teenagers speak the normal language at home to their parents. It's a way of showing respect because parents and other older people, such as teachers, are on a higher level. It's all about fitting in and getting accepted into a group in the face of adolescence. This is another reason that straattaal is mostly used by people between 12 to 21 years old. We interviewed a few teenagers between the age of 14 and 19 to know their use of straattaal. Their answers are not surprisingly all the same. They all use straattaal on a daily basis and only towards their friends. It's a way of being closer to their friends and they will fit into the group. It's often used because they can express their feelings better and their peers can understand them. Here you see the answers of the different ages of adolescents all agreeing on the same answers. We also observed the youngsters at our placement schools. It's noticeable how they speak straattaal in their own time, such as the break or when they converse in class. Children who speak the same sort of language sit together and seclude the others who don't. When they get asked to speak up in class for a presentation or to make a conversation with their teacher, their use of language changes into a somewhat more formal and polite type of language. We chose to interview and observe teenagers because it would be the most reliable source for us. They tell us about something that is a part of their identity, so it can be lied. Also, our research is based on other researches on straattaal and identity. We made a link to our other subject of that to know how identity is formed in the face of adolescence. So in conclusion, straattaal is often used to fit into a group and don't become an outsider. It's mostly used in between a group of friends who understand each other. They all have the same reason why they use straattaal on a daily basis. It's a short conclusion, but it all comes down to this. There were no unexpected findings because we used straattaal ourselves, so we knew what the outcome would be. Hi everyone! We chose the topic teenage language or adolescent language. We wanted to focus on the teenage language because we all four are still in our adolescent phase, so we find it very relevant and we can link our own experiences to this research. Every region or city has its own variation of teenage language. Also, most of the adolescents use teenage language on a daily basis, even though it's only a few words. If we look at the use of our own as a group, then we notice that we do use a lot of slang without any consciousness. It's a part of our social identity because we use them only amongst friends. Our research question is how teenage language is linked to social identity because we want to know how it becomes a part of our social lives.